When the Sonic the Hedgehog original movie was announced, way back, I suppose, not really way back, a few years ago, I was kind of in the camp of thinking, well, I hope this is fun, but this is probably going to be terrible, especially when they actually unveiled those designs for the original version of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was pretty much nightmare fuel. It was horrible looking, and I was really not psyched for this movie at all. Then something very odd happened, something that doesn't seem to happen a lot in Hollywood, and happens sometimes in gaming, but not enough. The company that was making it actually listened to the fans. There was pretty much a general outcry about the original design, just saying this looks stupid. It wasn't really like anyone was laying their life down on the sword because of it, but no one was really excited, just thinking this looks like a really shitty movie. So Sega and the others actually took this into account and they fixed it, and now he looks great. Fast forward to the movie actually coming out and people still being like, well, I hope this is good because, maybe they fixed it, but maybe it's going to be really bad animation. I mean, how do you overhaul the whole movie? It was a pleasant surprise. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will actually be seeing and reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 very, very soon. That's why I wanted to talk about this movie, because I never really did. This movie is an example of a good video game movie, and now when I say good, we're not looking at this like The Shining, we're not really looking at this like Citizen Kane. I'm not trying to make an argument that this is objectively the best movie ever made. But what this movie does is knows that its source material was based on fun. Sonic the Hedgehog was a video game mascot forever, decades and decades back, and when he should have perished alongside Sega with the fall of the Sega Dreamcast, when people were thinking, oh man, this means Sega is pretty much dead when the Dreamcast crashed and burned, it rose from the ashes. Sega was able to persist, and Sonic has remained culturally relevant, surprisingly, since then. And it's really an outlier because he has had a lot of good games and a lot of big clunkers, especially in the age of 3D animation and video games. Sonic has been really up and down. You have the more divisive and kind of mixed reception games like Sonic Heroes that I grew up on, to the more hated ones like Sonic the Hedgehog from 2006, all the way to the more positive ones like Sonic Colors. There is a really, really big history of this character meaning a lot to people. He had a whole bunch of lines of different comic books. I read the Archie ones growing up and I loved them. And so going into this movie, I was already a Sonic fan, but I was wondering, how is this going to be a full-on film? How are they going to scale this back to actually include human characters well? And what's going on with the Jim Carrey Robotnik situation? And I have to be honest, I have never gone into a movie probably more unsure of what it would be and walked out more happy with what I got. This is by far the most fun video game movie that I can think of, and it does make, I actually recently put together a list of my top 100 movies, it does make the list of that as well, just because I think it is so gosh darn fun. There is so much soul at the heart of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I am assuming that you've seen it because I'm going to be talking spoilers. It starts out in more of a classic Sonic world. You have characters like Sonic and Longclaw, and you do see echidnas in the background actually who attack Sonic early on. So this is very much the Sonic the Hedgehog world of something like Archie comics or even the classic video games, where it's just very outlandish, not really focused on humans or anything like that. And it kind of gives you an idea of that's where it's going to take place, but you see Sonic very young at the beginning. It very quickly progresses, and Sonic is on the run, ends up on Earth. Very similar in a way to a storyline like Sonic X, the classic anime, which I really liked, that got me into this character, actually. And it goes from there. And then you kind of think, oh no, is this just going to be a normal fish out of water story? But the amount of heart that they're able to put into Sonic as a character is really, really impressive. And same with James Marsden's character, the Donut Lord. This guy is awesome. This is one of those movies that I would say works for everybody. You could show a 10-year-old this movie and there's really nothing in it preventing them from enjoying it. Or you can show a 50-year-old this movie and there's nothing in it preventing them from enjoying it that I can see.
Welcome to San Francisco, Mr. Wachowski. Are you enjoying the clam chowder?
there is a real stigma around video game movies, and this movie completely defeats that stigma. One of my favorite parts about this movie is just Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, which is obviously Eggman. He does such a good job in this role, and it is a very unconventional Eggman, very different. This is sort of Dr. Robotnik before he's the Eggman that people know of from the video game, so very early Robotnik, and a bit of a different take on who he is in some ways, but it's very, very interesting how they were able to do it.
I'm in charge. Is Major Ben charge? In a world full of hungry little monkeys. Allow me to clarify. In a sequentially ranked hierarchy based on level of critical importance, the disparity between us is too vast to quantify. Spence. He's a good man. It's a flight suit. Don't run. It'll only hurt more if you do. And it's bad for your joints. They've proved it.
Jim Carrey actually really does carry a lot of the soul of this movie in terms of his very outlandish performance and just having a lot of fun on set. He is very much channeling an Ace Ventura type energy throughout this movie, and he does make sense and work as the villain, despite being a pretty surface level villain, at least in the first movie. This isn't something where it's deeply thought out and philosophical like Thanos or maybe Magneto or some of those bigger comic book movie villains, but it's a villain that makes sense and works for the movie that's being told. Sonic the Hedgehog is really a story of friendship and of somebody kind of feeling alone and finding where they belong in the world. And so in that way, it is a fish out of water story, but it's able to actually do some very unique things that I really, really enjoyed. There are tropes in here, obviously things like the bar fight scene and other stuff like that, but just the way that characters play off of each other and work off of each other between something like Sonic and Eggman or even Sonic and the Donut Lord, there's really no characters in this movie that don't have chemistry. Now, one of the things I really like about this is that they are able to beat the Transformers problem. The Transformers problem, if you're unaware, is kind of an issue that a lot of video game and toy-based movies have, where they feel the need to include human characters to humanize the movie, but then they don't really know what to do with them. So you have an example like Transformers with Megan Fox and Shia LaBeouf, where there are some movies where they have something to do, and there's other movies where they're just kind of along for the ride. Same with Shia later on. You have this same issue. They tried to move past it with Transformers 4, with the character of Cade, played by Mark Wahlberg, but this is something that I think people have criticized those movies heavily for, and actually kind of expect when it comes to a video game movie. A great example of this is something like Detective Pikachu, which is a very fun movie, but when it focuses on human characters versus the Pokemon, a lot of the times it's not quite as interesting of a movie. That movie is more based on spectacle. One of the things that I love that Sonic is able to do is relate the character to the characters around him and actually build empathetic relationships and connections between them. It's surprisingly well written for something that someone would just call a kids movie or a video game cash grab movie, and it was one of those movies that I'm actually looking forward to seeing the sequel of, instead of feeling like, geez, who even needs that to be made? I absolutely love, like I said, the chemistry between the cast, and I really do think this is an example of a primarily CGI-focused movie when it comes to things like Sonic or Dr. Robotnik's ships and robots and stuff like that, where I didn't really have a problem with how anything looked. I think part of that is that this is a movie that it doesn't really try and CGI human characters much at all. When you get into something like the Tarkins of Rogue One or the Leias, etc., you start to have almost an uncanny valley problem at times. That's not something that really pops up here. The anthropomorphic hedgehog himself is CGI, along with some robots, and that's about really it other than special effects that you need to worry about. So there wasn't really anything pulling me out of the movie where I was thinking, oh, that's a fake person. It's, you're already suspending your disbelief because there is a blue talking hedgehog moving at the speed of light in front of you. The final thing I wanted to talk about with this movie that really, really made me happy was all the little references and Easter eggs. You even have the classic Easter eggs to Westerns with Sonic's outfit and the way he behaves in the bar, all the way to seeing him at the beginning reading through Flash comics because that's the hero that he relates to, since the Flash is just so fast like him, which I thought was really fun, and I was surprised they were able to get the licensing to pull off. And then you move on to even smaller things like references to the video games and other stuff, classic sound effects, everything. It just really blew me away how much heart and soul was put into this movie. This movie, to me, it reminds me of Sonic Mania. If you don't know the story of Sonic Mania, just a very, very brief recap. It was made by a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, Christian Whitehead, who had essentially been a mega fan of the 2D Sonic games. He had been porting them to different devices on his own time and creating fan projects and stuff, and Sega eventually hired him. They took him in and had him make a game, and that game was fantastic. It was a return to form for Sonic the Hedgehog. This movie to me reminds me of the same type of thing where it really feels like the people who made it were not at all ashamed of what it was. They weren't ashamed of it being a video game character. They weren't ashamed of it being a fun kids thing originally. They weren't ashamed of the classic sound effects or even putting the video game graphics in the final outro where they actually show essentially a cut scene, but of some of the events that happened over the course of the game, now animated in 2D with pixel art and stuff. It's so fun and cool to see. This is the kind of thing we need more with movies, especially with video game movies. It shouldn't be made as some ultra serious, really try to cash in on the image type thing. It shouldn't be made, in my opinion, as something like the new Halo TV series where it tries to go absolutely off the rails and change all kinds of the heart of who the characters are and, almost just use those images for brand recognition while writing a completely different project. I don't think that's what you should be doing with these kinds of things. I think what you should be doing is what Sonic the Hedgehog does, which is looks at the heart of what makes this fun, what makes this character relatable, and what makes people enjoy this and walk out of the theater with a smile on their face. That's what I want to see more out of projects like this. It's why I'm very, very excited to review Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Hopefully later this week, actually, I will have seen it and talked about it. I know we're not like a big Sonic channel. This is something I'd like to periodically talk about, though, because it's one of those things I grew up with, this character, that I am shocked is still around, and still kicking and making fun stuff. I'm excited to talk about the second one. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. Did you like this movie? Did you not? What are your thoughts on that? And are there any video game movies that you want to see be made? And also, I'm wondering, are there any other Sega properties you'd want to see be made into a movie? I don't know why I said video game, but a movie. Let me know. Please leave a like if you hadn't already. Subscribe for more content. Have a fantastic day. And if you want to help support us, there are the links in the description down below, including Enchanted Glamour, which is my wife's my wonderful, beautiful wife's passion project, which is to create jewelry for all ages. If you have a older person in your life, maybe a younger person in your life, I don't need the backstory on that one, or maybe a significant other that you want to buy a piece of jewelry for, it's that time of year to show that you love someone. Links in the description down below, and it does go to support the channel. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shway.